Hey guys, my name is Amy, and I've been seeing a lot of these videos around popping up lately, and maybe they've already been going on, but I had really been seeing them more so around the time where I kind of went from New Age to Jesus. So I don't really have anything planned particularly of what I'm gonna say. I'm just kind of gonna tell you my story and then roll with it, and hopefully God can just lead me on what message He wants me to give you guys. So first and foremost, a little background. I was born and raised Catholic, went to a Catholic grammar school, high school. I always found myself that even though I wasn't, I would say, super religious, I was definitely close with God and Jesus. Like I had a good relationship, and I prayed a lot and spoke to Jesus, and always had that comfort knowing that He was there. Going into, I would say, college, just kind of didn't go to church anymore, and I focused just more on, not necessarily like partying or per se, but just like boys and just hanging out with friends and doing all the, young 20 thing that you would do. So I kind of just, always had Jesus and God there, but just wasn't as attuned to it. Fast forward to my early 20s too. I relationships and stuff like that. A lot of my friends and I would go seek out psychics for fun, for entertainment purposes. I never thought too much into it. However, the few times that I went, I would get like really nervous and really, almost excited to know, like, oh, well, what's in store for my future. So I would go, they would give me a reading, I would be like, oh, that's so exciting, whatever they would tell me. But I think the turning point with the whole, I guess you would say, New Age, was I had, I won't get into specifics, but like I just had a really bad experience. So I was online, and I remember I was trying to figure out what I should do in this situation. And I went online and I saw an advertisement for psychics. So I was like, oh, me and my friends used to do that, like curious to see what they would say about this situation. So I called and I know by the look on my face, I'm very embarrassed by it, but I know a lot of people have done this, but because I always thought it was like, psychic stuff was just entertainment stuff, but I called, and when I called, this person, the psychic, really, she didn't have, like, of course they have some information, but they didn't know like in-depth stuff about me. It wasn't out on the internet to see. So when she kind of brought all this stuff up, I was like amazed, and I was like, oh my God. And then I kind of got this sense of, wow, I think that the psychic stuff is real, and like they know things about me and my future, and this is great. At first I was like, this is great because I'm in so much pain and I need to know that I'm gonna be okay, and I need that comfort. So I kind of almost got a high out of calling psychics, because I kind of felt in control, and I felt like, well, they could tell me what's gonna happen, and I can dictate on, how I'll handle that situation because I have this knowledge. And I kind of just went into that path, and I just dug deeper into it by going to, opening, that kind of opened up the door. So this whole, I guess you want to call it, New Age stuff. Then I started to seek out energy healing, Reiki. I went to this lady, she was great, and she was very sweet, very nice. I didn't want, go see psychics anymore or anything like that, but she just was very in tune to my energy and what was going on. She knew things about my past, and you know, when you learn about energy healing and stuff like that, it's just we're all one, and there's no there's no bad, like even though things seem to be bad, it all has a purpose, and so actually everything's good. All this BS, but at the time I was very like, oh wow, okay, yeah, everything's love, and kind of made you feel good, you know, because you're like, everything's love, nothing bad happens, okay, like, you know, even things bad that happens, there's a reason for it, and we don't know that reason, but you know, that's okay, you know, so at the end of the day, everything's fine. And I kind of didn't like that when she told me this stuff, and like it kind of went against to what I believed, but I kind of was still open to the idea of all this new age stuff. After a while, like with the whole psychic thing, I kind of got freaked out by it. All of a sudden it was like I had an epiphany that, oh my God, it opened up this whole other door of, well, if I don't have control, if like everything is like, you know, if the psychics can see what's going to happen, then how do I have control? Then I don't have control over my life. Do I make my own decisions? Do we have free will? Like it just spiraled into, and I have a very philosophical mind, so I think of like the weirdest thoughts and I will go down that rabbit hole with it. So I kept like, you know, I stopped going to see the psychics, but then it was replaced with Reiki, which was not psychic, quote unquote, but she never claimed she was psychic, but she definitely read my energy, and I've always felt weird about it. There were times where I did find peace with it, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this Reiki thing is true, and like it's working. But over the years, it opened up another door of like me searching. I bought books on afterlife, I bought books on what happens when you die, or books on just kind of like universal stuff, and then law of attraction came in, and at first I was like, eh, but then somebody mentioned about Abraham Hicks, and I started listening to her YouTube videos, and I was very intrigued, and I was like, wow, okay, so this lines up to what the Reiki teacher was saying about, you know, we're all one, and like everything is good, and you know, you attract what you put out there, and all of that. And as much as I was intrigued, and it gave me a sense of relief, because in the back of my mind, because I told you I always was scared I didn't have like control. Like control was a big thing. But when I ended up like going into this whole like law of attraction, which I didn't even really practice it, I just would listen to it. But I would think to myself like, oh, okay, so we do have the power. Like her whole teachings, like we're like gods, and you know, we're part of God, so we are like God, so we create our own reality. Blah 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 blah. But again, another thing that kind of just like did not, you know, ring true to me was the fact that you have a perfect, you know, husband and wife that really want a baby, a healthy baby, and they're positive. Let's say they're like the nicest people you've ever met, and all of a sudden they get pregnant and their baby has some horrible disease. Like, I don't know. It's Abraham Hicks, basically, the teaching basically is like saying that they attracted it somehow, or I didn't wrap my head around that. Or like when you see really bad things happening to good people, or like what? Like it just never made sense. And I kept searching. Again, it was like this, like, I need to know more, need to know more, need to know more. And I also, you know, want to say that while all this was going on, I still believed that there was a God, like, you know, and Jesus, and I never doubted that there wasn't. However, because of all this information that was being fed to me, I was then under the impression that, like, okay, Jesus was one of many ascended masters, like Buddha and all this stuff. So again, I still didn't like that because I always had a close relationship with Jesus, like growing up. But I thought to myself, well, maybe this whole time I had blinders on and I had no idea. So, you know, like all this like positivity with this new age stuff, like chakras, healing, all this stuff, like you would think, you know, and there were times where I felt, I guess, happy, but I always felt bothered by some things about it. And this continued on for several years. I would go back to church, but I didn't feel connected. I always thought that like those that were, you know, Christian, Catholic, whatever, they were, you know, blinded and they didn't know the truth and they didn't wake up and and all this stuff. And here I was like, you know, blind. But yeah, I really like, it led me down like this horrible mental path. So fast forward to me getting pregnant. And having my baby. So I got married in October of 2018. I got pregnant, found out in January of 2019, had my baby September 14th of 2019. And I had named her Eliana. So the reason why I named her Eliana was because my grandmother's name was Eleanor, and I always liked, they used to call her Ellie, so I always wanted to name, if I had a girl, Ellie. So I came up with the name Eliana. Didn't really know the meaning behind it. Anyway, this is kind of where things and where God stepped in, I think, for me. Because right before I gave birth, I went to get Reiki done, and she mentioned like, oh, you know, medication. And I was like, oh God, like, what does that mean? Like, she's like, but she said, oh yeah, you know, your labor is going to go great. But then she said medication, and I was like, okay, medication, like, am I gonna have postpartum, like, and go on medication? Like, I don't know, like, because I suffer from anxiety and stuff, so I thought maybe that's what it was. But she said, oh, Reiki is closing the curtains on it. Excuse me. So like, she wouldn't, as I'm coughing, she wouldn't tell me what's going on. So I thought that was weird. But she said, oh, okay. Oh, she's like, oh yeah, it's, you know, for your head to make sure everything's okay. And I'm like, okay. So of course that's in the back of my mind now that I'm gonna, like, you know, go on medication. So I'm already set up for that. And that's another problem with getting readings done and stuff like that, because they plant seeds in your head and then you're expecting that to happen. So self-fulfilling prophecy, I don't know what you want to call it, but she put that idea in my head, so I already was like expecting it. So I had my daughter. Sure enough, postpartum hit really bad shortly after, and I knew I had to probably go on medication. So I was like, oh, Reiki's right, like I have to go on medication. So I tried going on something, didn't really help much, and I ended up getting off of it in the next few months, and very quickly the doctor kind of pulled me off of that, which I might do another video, not related to obviously new age stuff, but to medications, if anybody is interested in that, because I had horrible experiences with benzo and some SSRIs. So that could be another video that I do separately. Anyway, going back, I was pulled off of this medication. Horribly, I mean, my daughter is such a blessing. But this year, God, I feel like sent me her to go through this turmoil to come back to him, if that makes any sense. And I'll tell you why. So, needless to say, this whole year, she's like now 15 months, I, you know, was up and down with postpartum, and then I feel like I had complications with the medication that I was on, and I feel like it made things worse. My family's away from me. They live in another state, and so I was really much alone. My husband obviously is a great support, but there's only so much that you could do. He travels a lot, and so I felt very alone, and I had a lot going on mentally with everything. But my daughter, she's a great baby, and she is such a blessing. She's like a little angel. So weirdly enough, one day, fast forward to like this past summer, August, end of July, early August, I had a really bad time coming off of a benzo, which, like I said, I can do a video about that. But while this was happening, and I was still doing Reiki, distance Reiki, they do that. Oh my God, I sound so crazy doing all this stuff. But when you're desperate, you do desperate things, right? Like, you seek help no matter what. That's why people turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they turn to whatever it is, to like help with that pain that they're going through, instead of just turning to God and Jesus and saying, you take care of this, I trust in you. Instead, they could, we have all these earthly things that, we turn to kind of suppress the pain. So once I got off of this benzo that I like cold turkeyed, I kind of was like out of it. Like, emotional, like depression was 10 times, I would say 1,000 times worse. But I was still doing Reiki, and then all of a sudden, again, this whole thing of like, what do I believe in? Like, is there, Jesus and God, and like, or is it this whole new age stuff? And I was very confused, and I definitely feel like there was just like this spiritual battle going on within me, and I did not know what I was doing. And right around the time, I was still watching Abraham Hicks videos and stuff like that. And then I remember the day, after I was watching one of her videos, like the suggested videos pop up, and one of the videos said, New Age is demonic. And I was like, say what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I have been doing this. I don't want to watch this. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, no, it's not. It's healing. Everything's love. Like, everything's great. But the curious thing that my curious head, I was like, oh, let me watch it. And so I watched it. And this girl's this girl's testimony, tutorial. She kind of had a similar experience, and was talking about how she was doing this whole new age stuff, and she felt attacked and she felt horrible, and then she went back to Jesus and all this stuff. And it was almost like at that moment blinders were taken off of my eyes, and I was like, oh, wow. Like, this whole time, for a decade almost, I've been down this horrible path, not realizing that I've been doing something really sinful, and just going against to what I had always believed in. So it was very eye-opening, and I just felt this whole thing of like, oh my God, like, it was like Jesus took off these blinders. It was crazy. Around that time too, I ended up looking up my daughter's name, because this was just so bizarre. So I looked up my daughter's name, and I saw that it meant God has answered me. And I was like, what? So like this whole time I'm like searching for answers, like, and I feel like in a weird way God sent me her to go through this postpartum, whatever you want to call it, medication stuff, whatever, to realize that it's him, you know, like he's the truth and the way. So I almost like broke down. I was like, what? Like I had no idea that that's what her name meant. And you would think I would look that up, but beforehand, but I didn't. And that was just an amazing revelation to me that that's what that meant. And when her 20-week ultrasound happened, I looked at it and I sent it to my mother-in-law, and she saw it and she's like, oh, it looks like there's a halo on top of her head and a guardian angel on the right of her. And I was like, really? And I looked and I was like, oh my God, yes. So I want to show you this, and I don't know if you can really see on this camera, but okay. Can you see that? So I know it looks like a big blob, but there is the halo right there. That's her face right here. And then if you look over here, so there's the wing and the head, and then there's the wing over by her face. But if you zoom in, there is an actual like face, like a head of hair and a beard. It's crazy. Anyone I show this to, you could see it a lot better. If I can try, I'll try to put up the picture where I draw the outline of it. But it just shows you that, you know, God sent an angel. And I think that I truly believe that's her guardian angel. Also around this time, when I was like doing all this discovery, I hear a lot of mixed things about this book, Jesus Calling book. I don't see anything wrong against it, but people have their own opinions. So anyway, but the weird thing about this was, it was around, again, this is right around the time I turned against this whole New Age philosophy. And however, you know, I had a bad habit of searching things like, and for some reason I was still searching like, what happens when we die? Like all this stuff. And I came across somebody's profile, and it freaked me out what they said. And I started to panic. I was like, oh my God, like, why did I look that up? And I turned to that date in this book. Because I said, Jesus, like, what do I do? Like, help me. And then I grabbed this book and I flipped over to that date that we were on. And it said, understanding will never bring you peace. That's why I have instructed you to trust in me, not in your understanding. Human beings have a voracious appetite for trying to figure things out in order to gain a sense of mastery over their lives. But the world presents you with an endless series of problems. As soon as you master one set, another pops up to challenge you. The relief you had anticipated is short-lived. Soon your mind is gearing up again, searching for understanding, mastery, instead of seeking me, your master. The wisest of all men, Solomon, could never think this way through to peace. His vast understanding resulted in feelings of futility rather than in fulfillment. Finally, he lost his way and succumbed to the will of his wives by worshiping idols. My peace is not an elusive goal hidden at the center of some complicated maze. Actually, you are always enveloped in peace, which is inherent in my presence. As you look to me, you gain awareness of this precious peace. So that was exactly what I needed to hear at that moment. And it just makes perfect sense that I was looking everywhere else to find peace and understanding, and not to Jesus. So I just wanted to come on and share a little bit of my testimony. I have gone back to church, and I'm studying the Bible a lot more. And it's just amazing, stepping away from all of the New Age stuff. I'm not going to say it was easy, because that's what I was doing for 10 years. I kind of was brainwashed in all of that thinking. So, you know, going back to this, I feel like there's still a lot of, you know, turmoil of like, oh, is this right? Is this wrong? But every time I pray to Jesus and, you know, I ask him to help guide me through it, he does. So anyway, I just wanted to, like I said, quickly come on here and give you my testimony. I would love to hear from you guys and see if you have any similar stories. And let me know if, you know, you want to hear about any of my medication stuff, which I might just do anyway for those people that go through that. But I'm just trying to reach out to people that have experienced this. I never thought I'd make a YouTube video about this ever, but I was just really called to do it. And sorry, I look like I'm a mess, my beehive, but anyway, I hope you stay safe, and if you are in the new age right now, I would highly suggest you get out of that. It's just a big rabbit hole for disaster, and go back to God and Jesus and just ask Jesus to show you the way and the truth, and that's it. So thank you guys. God bless.